10. Killed on Christmas Eve. 26-year-old British beautician Elle Edwards was celebrating Christmas Eve at a packed pub in Wirral, England in 2022 when someone opened fire on the crowd. She wasn't the intended target according to police, but she was nevertheless fatally shot by the reckless onslaught of bullets. 4 other bar customers were injured but survived. It was an annual tradition of sorts for local residents to gather at the pub on Christmas Eve. In all the years that Elle and her family had been going there, nothing like this had ever happened. 3 suspects were arrested in connection with the shooting, but so far only one man, 22-year-old Connor Chapman, has been charged. One of the suspects is a 30-year-old man who was released from prison early after serving time for murder and attempted murder in an unrelated case. He was on probation at the time of the shooting and was taken back to prison for his suspected role in the Christmas Eve shooting. With little else to go on, Merseyside police are relying on the public to provide more information about the suspects who were captured on surveillance footage. Law enforcement has received dozens of tips, but the investigation is proving to be complex and difficult. 9. The Parkway Pub Murder. On New Year's Eve in 2021, a man walked into the Parkway Pub in Springfield, Illinois, and battered 2 of the people inside, including the 80-year-old owner, Angelo Manchi, and a 50-year-old patron. Manchi died from his injuries the next day. It all started when the bartender asked the man for his ID. The suspect didn't have his ID with him and became agitated and violent, according to Springfield Police Detective Benjamin Helton, who spoke with the prosecution at the first criminal hearing regarding the case. 27-year-old Dalton McDermott was initially taken into custody on 2 counts of aggravated battery. After Manchi died, the state attorney tacked on 2 additional counts of aggravated battery, along with 1 count of first-degree murder. Along with the new charges came a bail increase from $350,000 to $3 million. McDermott pleaded not guilty, and it's unclear where the case currently stands. 8. The disappearance of Yolanda Brown. What started out as a normal night out at a bar in September 2022 came to a mysterious and tragic end for 53-year-old Yolanda Brown. The last known image of her alive was captured by a surveillance camera at the Irish Bread Pub in Happaville, Georgia. She was seen speaking with a man in her car for 2 hours before she left the establishment. The man got into an SUV and pulled out of the parking lot behind her. Yolanda's son, Joshua Dirty, told local station WSB-TV shortly after her disappearance that he believed the man followed his mother that night. As the investigation played out, police revealed that she'd gone to the pub to meet someone she connected with online. State and local authorities launched a helicopter search, but they initially failed to find any sign of the missing mum or her Chevy Impala. About 2 weeks after she went missing, her car was found wrecked along the side of Interstate 20 with her body inside. It was unclear how long the car had been there before it was found, and authorities were hesitant to say whether they believed foul play was involved. At the time, they said that they were working all possible angles of the case. Since then, police have declined to release any further details regarding the circumstances of Yolanda's death. 7. Infamous mother makes headlines again. Unless you live under a rock, you've probably heard of Casey Anthony, the mother of a 2-year-old little girl named Kaylee, who disappeared in South Florida under suspicious circumstances and was found dead in 2008. Prosecutors tried Casey on a murder charge in 2011 with the intention of seeking the death penalty, but in an unexpected twist, the jury acquitted her. She still lives in Florida, but ever since the case came to its shocking conclusion, she's kept a low profile, for the most part, at least. Casey Anthony made headlines again in 2021, but this time it had nothing to do with the tragedy surrounding her daughter. According to law enforcement, she got into a shouting match with another woman at O'Shea's Irish pub in West Palm Beach one evening. The source of the argument, a man they'd both dated. A police report stated that the woman spilled water on Anthony's leg, and Anthony wanted to document the incident but declined to press charges. And she was advised on how to file for a restraining order, but decided not to pursue one. The specifics surrounding the argument were never revealed, and Casey stayed out of the spotlight until the release of a tell-all documentary in early 2023 called Where the Truth Lies. 6. Revenge, AR-15 style. 24-year-old Henry Estuardo Soto Cardona was drinking at the Porthole pub in Pompano Beach, Florida in early 2021 when he allegedly became belligerent toward other customers. He was escorted out of the bar and tried to re-enter several times, but the manager kept blocking him, according to a police report. Soto Cardona issued an ominous warning that he would be back with something for the manager, and finally left. Just minutes later, he returned in his SUV and parked near the pub's front door. 3 employees noticed his vehicle and went outside anticipating more trouble. As they approached the SUV, Soto Cardona allegedly grabbed the barrel of a gun that was sitting in his passenger seat and said, "This is what I do to people who touch me." He was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in connection with the disturbing incident. At his first court appearance, Assistant State Attorney Eric Linder accused Soto Cardona of threatening an employee with an AR-15 assault rifle. Linder also said that there were others present who were put in danger by the defendant. The arrest came just days after Soto Cardona was charged with DUI after he allegedly rear-ended a car at a railroad crossing. In yet another unrelated case, he was also accused of firing a weapon repeatedly outside his home for no reason and without provocation. 5. Deadly fight at the door. 29-year-old single father Edward Stokes was drinking with relatives at the Army and Navy pub in Plaistow, England in early 2016 when he unexpectedly encountered devastating violence. It all started when someone from Edward's party got into a confrontation with 22-year-old Reese Hussein Lester inside the bar. The disagreement eventually spilled outside. Edward was standing outside the pub with several other patrons around midnight when Hussein attacked the group with a long kitchen knife, plunging the blade deep into Edward's chest. He and 3 others were rushed to the hospital, where Edward unfortunately died from multiple stab wounds, including one that severed an artery. The other victims survived. 2 suspects fled the scene, according to police, who eventually caught up with and arrested 6 women and 4 men in connection with the incident. Hussein turned himself into the police after finding out he was wanted for murder, and no further action was taken against the other suspects. According to police, Edward was trying to mediate between the parties when the vicious stabbing occurred. Hussein claimed in court that he stabbed Edward in self-defense, but the victim was unarmed at the time. A jury convicted Hussein Lester of manslaughter, 1 count of wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, and 1 count of unlawful wounding. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison. 4. The disappearance of Martin Joyce. 29-year-old Martin Joyce was last seen at the Bank of England pub in Ancoats, Britain on September 5, 1999. It had been a hard year for the young man who suffered the losses of his father and brother, but he seemed to be back on track until he vanished seemingly into thin air. More than 23 years later, Martin's disappearance remains a mystery. In 2016, the Greater Manchester Police dug up the cellar of the pub after receiving a tip that he may have been killed during a fight at the establishment and buried in the basement. The excavation yielded no evidence, but law enforcement continues to treat Martin's disappearance as a murder, and they consider the information they've received to be credible. His sister, Mary Joyce, disagrees with how the case is being handled. She doesn't believe her brother was murdered, but she admitted to the Manchester Evening News that she doesn't know why he went missing. At the time, Martin was living with Mary and their brother, Michael. After the deaths of their father, who was also named Martin, and their brother Douglas in 1998, Martin Jr. tried to take his own life twice. He overdosed both times. After the second incident, he was released from the hospital and went to jail for 9 months almost immediately after for traffic offenses. One thing everyone can agree on is that something seems to have gone horribly wrong for Martin that night, and answers are still lacking. It seems unlikely that he would have left his life behind on purpose, since he seemed to be doing better after the tragedies he endured. But for now, nobody knows, and his family has to live with the uncertainty and the absence of closure that comes along with it. 3. Backstreet Cafe shooting. Just months after the world entered the new millennium, a man walked into a popular gay club in Renaique, Virginia called the Backstreet Cafe and ordered a beer. A few minutes later, he put his hand into the pocket of his trench coat, pulled out a handgun, and opened fire on the people inside, killing 43-year-old Danny Lee Overstreet, a beloved regular customer, and injuring 6 others. The ordeal left everyone with emotional scars, including those who were physically uninjured. One survivor, who asked to remain anonymous, told ABC News that the bullets whizzed past at such a close distance that she could feel the wind they produced. She said she looked up and saw people falling to the ground. Authorities charged 53-year-old Ronald Edward Gay in connection with the horrific shooting. In the days following the tragedy, members and supporters of the LGBTQ+ community came together across the country for vigils and marches. Several investigative media reports described how Gay told police that God told him to commit the shooting. He also allegedly said that he got picked up on his last name and had become bitter after years of being taunted. Gay pleaded guilty to multiple charges, including murder, and received 4 consecutive life sentences for his actions, which were deemed a hate crime. He died of natural causes while serving his sentence at a Virginia state penitentiary. He was 75 years old. The shooting was considered one of the worst hate crimes against LGBTQ+ people in the years leading up to the 2016 Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando, Florida. 2. A deadly walk home. 43-year-old father of 4 Dean Edwards was walking home from a pub in southeast London in 2020 when he was shot in the back of the head, execution style, in what appeared to be a horrifying case of mistaken identity. He was strolling through a park unarmed and was heading toward a subway station when the disturbing crime occurred. Following an investigation, police charged 26-year-old Taylor Purdy with murder. Purdy not only denied prosecutors' allegations that he shot Edwards in cold blood, he denied having any involvement in the killing, period. He claimed that he wasn't the man in the surveillance footage which captured the shooter in action, and he said that he had no idea why a cigarette butt found near the scene had his DNA on it, but that he may have been out with friends that night and flicked it from inside a car. And a jury believed him. Purdy was acquitted of the murder charge, and Edwards' tragic and needless death remains officially unsolved, although prosecutors are pretty sure the jury got it wrong and that they went after the right man. And the victim's family appeared understandably distraught as the not guilty verdict was read. 1. Gates Pub Shooting. One day in April 2015, a gunman entered the Gates Pub in Rochester, New York, and fatally shot 37-year-old Ricky Jones. The victim was struck at least 6 times, including once in the head. Authorities charged the shooter, David Alligood, with murder and various other crimes in connection with the incident. Alligood's attorney, Paul Vacker, sought to reduce the charge from second-degree murder to manslaughter, claiming that it was unclear how many guns were involved in the shooting and who fired all the shots. According to Vacker, it was impossible to slow down the security footage to a point where it was possible to unquestioningly point the finger at Alligood. In the lawyer's words, the footage speaks for itself and it doesn't show my client doing anything. Prosecuting attorney Patrick Gallagher, on the other hand, argued that the surveillance footage clearly showed that Alligood was a lone gunman acting on his own accord and without any co-conspirators. Gallagher also said that all 6 bullets taken from the victim's body came from the same gun, according to ballistic evidence. He went on to explain that Alligood could be seen calmly walking over people who were laying on the ground, and that the defendant's intention was to kill. The jury agreed with the prosecution and convicted Alligood of murder, along with 2 counts of second-degree criminal possession of a weapon. He was sentenced to 25 years to life. At his sentencing, the 32-year-old apologized to the victim's family, while claiming that he shot Jones in self-defense. Thanks for watching. Would you rather deal with the frustration of your ex and their new partner crashing your birthday celebration at your favorite pub, or experience the most disappointing food of your life during your birthday dinner? Let us know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Bye.